Well, mainly the reason for this meeting is to try to push the participation of Italian, Brazilian researchers to the programs, to the goals of European Union. You know that Horizon is one of the biggest research program. I think that is the biggest research program in the world, and it's a very interesting opportunity for all of us, for a lot of reasons. But I think that it's even more important now that the international situation is changing so quickly. And this program, which allows a collaboration with European countries, is a stable fundamental for international research collaborations. And so I would really, I am really interested in pushing a collaboration which is natural between Italian researchers who are in Brazil, Brazilian researchers who are in Italy, but even more among Italian and Brazilian researchers. I just I don't want to waste too much time because Charlotte will give us more interesting information, but I just want to tell you, I mean, I want to, a small story. When I was working at the Ministry of Research in Italy, at the National Council of University, one day one of the general main directors of the ministry came to give a talk to us. And of course, we started to complain about the fact that the research in Italy was not enough funded, that there was not enough money, and all this. And they said, at the end of our talk, he answered, yes, but we give a lot of money to Europe. And so go to take it. And I think that this challenge is something that it's each of us. Europe has a lot of money for research and invests a lot of money of research. So this is a very, very good opportunity for all of us in order to improve the rate of collaboration between Italy and Brazil. And I hope that this meeting will help you to find the opportunity that you are more interested in it. Okay, I stop here, and I really thank Charlotte to be here with us.
Okay. Buongiorno a tutti. This is the most I can do in Italian, and I'm sorry for that. So I'll be speaking in English. The objective of this presentation is to introduce Horizon Europe, as Fabio said, and thank you a lot for the invitation. It's the biggest, the largest program for innovation and research in the world, and we'll see why. So the idea is to introduce it, explain how you can participate as Italian researchers in Brazil or as Brazilian researchers in Italy, and how you can use the program to increase the collaboration and support your mobility between the two countries. I represent Euraccess here, the European Commission initiative that promotes researchers' mobility and collaboration between Europe and the rest of the world. I'm based in Brazil, and also Euraccess works with the diaspora, the scientific diaspora of European researchers that we are also gathering in an association, as Marco is doing with Aribe, and as diaspora is doing in Italy for the Brazilians, right? So I can hear some microphones open. If you could please just close them and we go ahead. So Horizon Europe has a total budget of more than 95 billion euros for a 7 years period from 2021 to 2027. It's organized in 3 pillars. The first one is called Excellent Science. In kind of, to simplify, the first program funds individual researchers when they want to do a PhD, a postdoc, or frontier research in Europe, and we see what's in it for you. The second pillar funds collaborative projects. The objective is to find solutions to the global challenges and to increase the European industrial competitiveness. So here are the calls to select collaborative projects in clusters, meaning they are organized by topics. You can see the first clusters is dedicated to health, the second to culture, creativity, and inclusive society, etc., etc. There are 4 clusters, but most of the calls under Horizon Europe are actually transversal. So in a call dedicated in the 6th cluster called food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment, there are needs for social scientists, for example. It's not only for people working on agriculture. Okay, this is the idea that I want to share, very important. And the third pillar is dedicated to Innovative Europe. Today I will focus on that one, only on the first 2. So let's see how you can participate in them. First, we have to be very clear. I want you to know that both individual researchers and legal entities, meaning institutions, both from Italy and Brazil, can participate in Horizon Europe. Yes, it's a European program, but it's open to the world and everybody can participate. So how can you do that? There are 2 ways, but to participate in an open call. The Horizon Europe is organized in calls, and some of them are open to individual researchers. In that case, all researchers from the world, Italy and Brazil, can participate in the calls. You remember that they fit mostly in the first pillar of Horizon Europe, and the programs, I leave here the acronyms for you so you can explore them in the future. I will share my slides so you will have all the definitions. But the main program that funds individual researchers are the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, MSCA, and the ERC, the European Research Councils. They are calls and they are annual. We are sure that they will be open every year until 2027. The other way to participate in a call in Horizon Europe is as a legal entity, meaning as an institution. Okay? Institutions have to build a consortium of at least 3 entities from 3 different European countries to submit a proposal. So it's a consortium proposal. So Italy, institutions from Italy are considered as the core members of the consortium, the beneficiaries, okay? And on top of this minimum of 3 legal entities from 3 different countries in Europe, international partners can be added to the consortiums. So it's the case for Brazilian institutions. You see here something that maybe you don't know yet. European country, associated countries. European countries are Italy and the other 26 member states of the European Union. And some countries are associated to Horizon Europe, meaning that they contribute to the budget and they can benefit as if they were Europeans. Most of those associated countries are in the neighborhood. Norway, UK is associated again, Switzerland is associated again, but also Tunisia, Morocco, Israel, and other countries. Okay, so 2 types of calls, some for individual researchers, some for entities. what are the entities that I'm referring to? Of course, universities and research centers where the researchers fit, but Horizon Europe is also open to the private sector, so business group, industries, SMEs, small enterprise, startups, okay, but also public administrations, museums, libraries, hospitals, NGOs. Any kind of legal entities can participate in Horizon Europe. If you remember correctly, they are part of a consortium to submit a proposal with their colleagues in Europe and from everywhere in the world. Okay, so you can participate. What about the eligibility to funding? This is an important question, right? So if you participate as an individual researcher, either from Italy or Brazil, to do a PhD, a postdoc, frontier research, you are totally eligible to receiving fundings, grants by the European Commission. So this is a good news. For the calls that are mostly of the second pillar, that are open to institutions, legal entities. If you work for an institution in Italy, no matter what is your nationality, if your university is in Italy, then you are eligible to receiving funding when you participate in a collaborative project. If your institution is from Brazil, it's not automatic. Since 2014, Brazil is considered rich, developed countries that can support the cost of participating in those big collaborative projects. So the rule is Brazil can participate, but is usually not funded by the European Commission, except when it's foreseen in the call since the beginning. Okay, sometimes the European Commission asks for participation of Brazil in a given call and wants to fund the Brazilian institution as it funds the Italian institution, for example. So if it's foreseen since the beginning in the work program or in the call, then the Brazilian institution is funded. Or if you can prove that the participation of the Brazilian institution in the consortium in the project is essential because it has an outstanding experience or competence that we don't have in Europe, or because the Brazilian institution has access to a specific infrastructure, geographical environment, or data that we don't have in Europe, then it can be exceptionally funded, okay? In the other case, the Brazilian institution has to cover its cost for participation in the project. So either it can be funded on the institution funds, the university fund. Sometimes Brazilian university participate in those big Brazilian programs for internationalization, such as the CAPE Sprint or the next program that is coming, and it can be a way to fund its participation or participating in other programs. And there is also a co-funding mechanism set by the Brazilian institutions thanks to the administrative arrangements signed with the European Commission. So this administrative arrangement was signed by 3 institutions in Brazil jointly that are CONFAP, which is the Council of State Funding Agencies, the FAPs, CNPq and FINEP. This institution can support the Brazilian institution when it participates in a Horizon Europe consortium, but it's not automatic. They are not obliged to do it, okay? You have to request their co-funding. So what I want you to bring from this first part is, yes, you can participate in Horizon Europe, either being Italian or Brazilian, either working in Italy or in Brazil. Italians working in Italy will be funded, and if you work, no matter your nationality, if you work for Brazilian institution, then your institution will need to bring its co-funding or fund its own participation. The other key information that I want to say is that you see that it's never bilateral collaboration, because we need at least 3 European countries in a consortium, Italy, 2 other Europeans, and then Brazil, to prepare a good proposal. It will never be a Italy-Brazil only joint collaboration, okay? I want this to be very clear. So it works fine. Italy and Brazil participate a lot together in so far under Horizon Europe. There are 123 joint participations between Italy and Brazil in 57 projects, sorry. Okay, so 23 of these projects are in the Pillar 2, and 33 of these joint projects are in Pillar 1. And I will explain the details of Pillar 1 a little bit later, and why is in widening, which is the bottom line of Horizon Europe, the 3 pillars and the bottom line. This is one of the projects of this bottom line. Okay, so in terms of topic, those 23 projects in Pillar 2 are mainly in the Cluster 6, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment, then health, then culture and climate, and digital industry and space. This is so far, but we still have 3 years to go under Horizon Europe, and these numbers are going to increase. So we have 23 projects, 68 participations, meaning that more than 1 institution from each country participate in each project, okay? Because you can have 3 Italian institutions, 1 Croatian, 1 from Denmark, and then 2 Brazilians, 1 Argentinian in the same project, okay? So we have more institutions than projects. Okay, so let's go ahead. How do you find these opportunities? I told you that one of the keywords is a work program and a call, because Horizon Europe is organized in work programs. Usually the work programs are biannual, but now this is an exception in 2025. We have only 1-year work program because we are in the middle of Horizon Europe. The work programs are published by clusters and by programs. You remember Marie Skłodowska-Curie, ERC, and then Cluster 1, Health, Cluster 2, Cluster 3, Cluster 6. Each one has its own work program that details everything that the European Commission wants researchers to work on. It provides the information on the call, the deadlines, the budget, the expected outcomes of each of the calls, okay? So I suggest that you have a look at the work programs, of course. Let me see. Sorry. And in the slides that I will share, you will have more information about those work programs and explain a little bit how it works. But I want to tell you that there are 3 types of calls in Horizon Europe. The first one is called Research and Innovation Action. These are HIA. These are normal research projects that are aimed at establishing a new knowledge or exploring the feasibility of a new technology or an improved technology. And these are the more common type of calls that you will find in Horizon Europe. The other one is called Innovation Action, or EA, and this is for project with higher TRL, more applicable, that you have to test the large-scale product validation, for example, and the market replication. This is more about innovation and going to market. And the last type of calls are the CSAs, the coordination and support actions, that are not really research by itself, but it's more a support measures such as dissemination, collaboration, awareness raising, or communication on a scientific topic, okay? So in the work program, you will find mostly HIAs, Research and Innovation Actions, but also Innovation Actions and CSAs. Where do you find them? You will find all the description in the work program, but you will find the call itself in the funding and tender portal. That is the European Commission portal where everything is published. And it's not so easy to navigate in the EU funding and tender portal. This is not the most sexy portal in the world. So there is here a link for you, which is the funding and tender portal for beginners, to understand how to navigate this portal that has a lot to offer, and where that you have to explore to find the calls that you are interested in. But there is a way to filter from, there are hundreds of calls published in each work program, when not thousands of calls. So you can filter, of course, by topic, by keyword, but you can also filter the calls that are considering international cooperation as a priority, okay? Again, you can participate in all the calls, but those that are focusing on international cooperation are sometimes easier for you to start, okay? So you can filter here and find only those, and here there is a link for you to access the list of information by itself. What I can say is also that to facilitate to make your life easy, from your Access Latin America, we did publish here on our website a summary about how to participate and how Latin American institutions and researchers can participate. Everything is available here by this link. And you will also find here the link to a list that we prepared for you, a list of calls under the 2025 work program that are open to international collaboration and that are targeting more specifically participation of Latin America and the Caribbean, Brazil and the other countries in the region. These calls are either calling for the participation of Brazilian institutions, or sometimes even saying, well, we, the European Commission, will fund the Brazilian institutions when they participate in these calls, because we really want them to work with Europeans, with Italian institutions and other European institutions to find a solution to this given topic. Okay, so there are several calls in research infrastructure. There are several calls in cluster 4, 5, 6 that are calling for Brazilian participation. This is something to make your life easier, but again, you can find any call that is open now and start preparing a proposal with partners from Europe and from Brazil and other countries if you wish. Okay, so have a look at this list and see if you can find a call that is relevant for you in your topic of interest. Another tip for you is that there are other type of calls that are in the European partnerships. And Brazil participates in the 3 partnerships that appear on your screen that are biodiversity plus, water for all, and sustainable blue economy partnerships. All of them have participation of Brazil, and all of them have participation of Italy, meaning that these European partnerships will launch calls, usually they are annual, to work on their topic of interest, and will request the participation of Brazilian and Italian institutions, for sure. And in this case, the Brazilian institutions will be funded by the Brazilian funding agencies, CNPq or Confab, that participate in the partnerships. Okay, so this is something else to explore, another opportunity for you to explore, to participate and to collaborate between Brazil and Italy. Okay, so first you find an opportunity, you now know that you have to read the work programs and explore the funding and tender portals, and then you have to build a consortium. So you probably already have partners in the other countries, but you need to find more European partners to participate in the consortium. And there are several tools to help you find partners. We list them in a guide.
Vediamo un pochettino qua,
I can
33%,
hear
devo salire.
somebody. Yes. Okay. So you can find partners, and you will find tools here to explore how do you call it, the database of that help you find partners and be found by other European institutions interested in submitting a proposal. Okay. Okay, so this is it, mainly to participate in the Pillar 2 as an institution, reminding that more important than your nationality, what's important is the nationality of the institution that you work for when you want to participate in the second pillar. But you can and you should. I didn't show you, but when Brazilian institutions participate in the consortium, the success rate increases. So it's good for everybody. It's good for Italian researchers and the other members of the consortium, and it's good for the Brazilian institution and researchers to join those collaborative projects. Now I would like to speak a little bit about funding for individual researchers. If you remember correctly, it fits in the first pillar of Horizon Europe here, with two main programs that are the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions and the European Research Council, the ERC. So what are the opportunities? I won't have time to go into details, but quickly, in the first pillar, the European Commission funds PhD, postdoc, and frontier research, mainly done in Italy and the other European countries or the countries associated to Horizon Europe. These three first options, you, Brazilian researchers, are fully eligible to funding, okay? And the Italian researchers, of course, you also are totally eligible to do a PhD, a postdoc, or frontier research in Europe, okay? Here, collaboration project is what we have been discussing so far, but when you see a green star, it means that the call is currently open, so you should explore it with more urgency now, so you don't lose the opportunity. So for individual researchers, if you wish to do a PhD in Europe or even a postdoc, you can look into the positions that are open by the Italian institutions and other European institutions, and they are all published on Euraccess Jobs portal. Euraccess Jobs portal is a kind of database. It's quite easy to use. You will find open position, and then you submit an application to the position if your profile matches the offer, okay? So this is the most easy part. There is another opportunity for postdoc, and I will explain very quickly. This is the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Postdoctoral Fellowship. This fellowship is very good because it funds researchers, again, of all nationalities, to work on their own project, own research and training project, because the idea is to grow as a researcher, to develop new abilities, to increase your employability. So you can, at the end of this fellowship, you can find a suitable position for you, not necessarily in the academy, but also in the private sector, government, where you want to go. So the call is open now. It's open to researchers with a PhD and maximum 8 years of experience after obtaining their PhD. To submit a proposal, you need a host institution in Italy or anywhere in Europe where you will be doing your postdoc during 2 years. Okay, important, there is a mobility rule, so you cannot go to a country to do your postdoc if you have lived or worked there more than 12 months in the 3 previous years before the deadline, the call deadline, okay? So if you are based in Brazil and want to go to Italy, you have to make sure that you were not in Italy in the recent past, otherwise you have to move to another country, okay? So let me show you exactly for you. There are two types of postdoctoral fellowship. The first one is to go to Europe or to move in Europe. It's called European fellowship. So researchers who are based in Brazil, no matter their nationality, either Italian or Brazilian, can go to Italy or to Europe with a European fellowship. There is an advantage for Italian researchers who are based outside of Europe. If you have the Italian nationality, the time that you are doing research outside of Europe will not be counted in the 8 years of experience. Meaning that if you had your PhD 20 years ago, but you've been working in Brazil all the time, you are still eligible to apply to go back to Italy with a European fellowship or to go to another European country. The global fellowship is the possibility to go from Europe to Brazil to do a postdoc, and then you have to go back to Europe. Okay, so Italian researchers are totally eligible to come to Brazil to do a postdoc and then go back to Europe. We did a webinar 2 weeks ago with an Italian researcher who's now in São Paulo doing his postdoc, and will go back to Italy at the end, and he shared his experience, so you can watch the webinar here. Brazilian researchers, they can apply to a global fellowship only if they are long-term resident in Europe, okay? And then they would be able to come to Brazil or to go to any other country in the world. Remember that you still have to match the mobility rule, saying that you cannot go to a country where you have lived more than 1 year in the 3 years prior to the call deadline. Okay, I know this is a lot of information and I'm almost finishing, and you will get access to the slides so you can explore more into details afterwards. Okay, I just want to highlight another opportunity under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie, a very good call called staff exchanges. This call is for institution, meaning that you remember you can participate, your institution can participate, but will have to cover the cost for its participation. This call is selecting research and innovation projects that are done through the mobility, the short-term mobility of the staff of the institutions that participate. So we have institutions from Italy, from Spain, from Finland, etc., that make a consortium with Brazilian institution, Mexican institution, and Asiatic institution. Together they are going to work on the same research project, and their staff is going to be exchanged for 1 to 12 months. So it funds the short-term mobility. Either you go to Europe and the Europeans come to Brazil to work in your institution for this short period. Who can do the mobility? The PIs, principal investigators, PhD students, postdoc, but also administrative and technical staff of your institution. So this is very good, and this is quite rare. Brazil is very good in this call, Italy of course also, but Brazil has one of the highest participation in the world of non-European countries. So I invite you to explore this possibility with attention and with your heart, as I always say in Brazil, con cariño, because this is a very good opportunity. Okay, so finally, this is the Euraccess job portal. This is the initiative that I represent in Brazil, and that supports researchers' mobility and scientific collaboration. We have several tools. The first one I mentioned is the job portal, where you can find offers. All of the offers published, funded by the European Commission, are published on this portal, and several other tools to support you, but I won't speak now longer. I just share our email. You can ask if you have any question. You can follow us on social media and sing in our newsletter, so you know every opportunity. Our focus is on Latin America more than on Italy, but if you want to collaborate with Brazilian institutions, Brazilian researchers, this is a good opportunity to know which are the calls that are open to them and to submit applications. So thank you very much for your attention. It was long and it was a lot of information. I'm sorry for that, but there are a lot of opportunities, and I hope that you will make good use of it.
Thanks a lot, Charlotte, for your enlightening presentation. I think this must have attracted the attention of everybody here. It's very interesting. And I would like to give continuity to this webinar, and I'll show you a short presentation that was prepared using artificial intelligence by our colleague Stefano De Leo, which is a professor at the Department of Mathematics at the University of Campinas.
Good morning to the participants in Brazil and good afternoon to those in Italy. I am the AI voice assistant responsible for presenting the talk prepared by Professor Stefano from the State University of Campinas in Brazil. Professor Stefano will present two projects. Heritage for Future, part of the European Next Generation program, involving 9 Italian universities and Brazilian universities. BRIT24, a support program for teaching and scientific initiation, fostering collaboration between the University of Salento, Unicamp, and high schools in Italy and Brazil. We thank the organizers for the invitation and hope this presentation will not only help promote these two projects but also strengthen future collaborations between Italy and Brazil. Enjoy the presentation. The Heritage for Future project is part of the Next Generation EU initiative by the European Union, which fosters transnational collaborations in education and research through partnerships among higher education institutions in Europe and beyond. The initiative places special emphasis on the green transition, advancing sustainable practices and environmental resilience, digital transformation, promoting innovation through technology and digital solutions, next generation policies, supporting smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth, health, economic, and social resilience, strengthening institutional and societal adaptability for future challenges. By aligning with these priorities, the project aims to drive meaningful progress while fostering long-term cooperation between Europe and global partners. 4 key objectives form the foundation of the Next Generation projects. These core pillars are broadening international cooperation, fostering mobility programs, promoting inclusion and diversity, supporting innovation and competitiveness. Within the Next Generation program, 4 geographic regions have been identified as strategic priorities. 1. Non-EU Mediterranean countries and Balkan states. 2. Africa. 3. Asia. 4. Latin America. While some projects may include partners from multiple regions, most initiatives focus their collaboration primarily on one of these 4 strategic areas. Funding allocation and project structure. Italy received €50 million in funding for these projects, distributed as follows. €30 million for universities in northern and central Italy. €20 million for universities in southern Italy and the islands. The formed networks typically included between 5 to 10 universities each. As mentioned in the previous slide, most networks chose to focus on a single strategic region. While funding allocation varied by geographic location, this did not require networks to be exclusively composed of either northern/central or southern/island universities. Consequently, mixed region collaborations were created within the networks. The Heritage for Future Project Consortium comprises 9 Italian universities. Politecnico of Torino in Piemonte, Universities of Brescia and Pavia in Lombardia, University of Padova in Veneto, University of Bologna, administrative headquarters in Emilia-Romagna, Federico II University of Napoli in Campania, University of Messina in Sicilia, University of Calabria, University of Salento, Lecce in Puglia. The consortium of 9 Italian universities participating in the Heritage for Future project has selected Latin America as its strategic focus region. This includes collaborations with Spanish-speaking countries, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, Uruguay, Portuguese-speaking country, Brazil, featuring leading universities such as UNICAMP, UFF, UFRJ, and USP, among others. Following the project's approval, the consortium has begun implementing its collaborative framework with Latin American partners. The preliminary agreements established during the preparation phase are now being formalized into active bilateral cooperation agreements between the Italian and partner institutions. Each university in the Heritage for Future Consortium coordinates a specific research area. Below we highlight 3 key collaboration fields between UNICAMP and Unisalento. Teaching for Future, Sustainable Energy Innovation, Digital Transformation. Teaching for Future aims to revolutionize education through AI-powered tools, facilitating personalized learning experiences, virtual laboratory environments, and interdisciplinary teaching methodologies. Sustainable Energy Innovation concentrates on developing energy-efficient systems, pioneering storage solutions, innovative renewable technologies, and smart grid implementation. Digital Transformation Management focuses on key objectives including intelligent infrastructure development, industrial process automation, urban traffic optimization, advanced telemedicine systems, AI-enhanced diagnostic tools. UNICAMP is currently engaged in all 3 research areas, with collaborative initiatives launching next semester through structured faculty exchanges and student mobility programs with Unisalento. Next-generation projects are based on the mobility of faculty and students. In the Heritage for Future project, mobility involves faculty, undergraduate, and doctoral students from the 9 Italian universities in the consortium, who will spend periods teaching and studying at institutions in Latin America, as well as faculty and students from Latin American institutions visiting the 9 consortium universities. According to the call for proposals, faculty mobility was set for a minimum of 5 days to a maximum of 3 months. Student mobility for study periods was set for a minimum of 2 months to a maximum of 6 months. For the UNICAMP Unisalento partnership, the following durations have been established as a baseline. Teaching periods, 3 weeks, in person, which can be extended with online lectures. Doctoral student study periods, 3 months. Undergraduate student study periods, 6 months. Currently, the administrative process is being finalized. Before concluding, we will briefly present the BRIT24 project, a student network that will integrate with the Teaching for Future collaboration between UNICAMP and Unisalento. Coordinated by Professor Stefano, the project's primary goal is to complement foundational undergraduate education, where first-year students often feel adrift, like floating in a boat at sea, sometimes struggling to find their footing. BRIT24 aims to immerse them in hands-on problem-solving involving AI applications, algorithm design, programming tools, real-world challenges encountered in university courses. Unlike its predecessor BRIT19, restricted to undergraduates, BRIT24 has been expanded to include high school students in Campinas, Brazil, and Lecce, Italy. In the following, 2 testimonials from participants of the project's earlier iteration.
Hi everyone, my name is Alessia Stefano and I was part of the BRIT project during my bachelor and master degree in physics at the University of Salento in Lecce. The project gave me the opportunity to understand how actually research works during my undergraduate studies. Coordinated by Professor De Leo, we were able to give our contribution to the field of quantum optics and photonics. We learned how to manage our time to work on the project, how to code, how to write papers, and deal with journals and referees. Moreover, it gave me the necessary experience to choose the right career path for me. Now I'm a PhD student at the University of Pavia and I work on integrated photonic structure based on nonlinear optical processes for the generation of quantum state of light in the framework of the National Quantum Science and Technology Institute.
Hi, I'm Leonardo. I'm a PhD student in mathematical physics at the University of Nottingham in the UK. And I took part of the BRIT19 program during my bachelor studies in Lecce, in Italy. BRIT19 was a fundamental experience for me. not only because it made me learn some new physics by doing it, by facing some challenging problems, but because it made me realize what research actually is, for example, by encouraging collaboration with other students. Moreover, I had the pleasure, the opportunity to visit University of Campinas, where I worked side by side with Professor De Leo. And this was an absolutely enriching experience, not only from the human side, because I had the chance to learn and explore Brazilian culture, but even because he helped me build the confidence in what I was doing so early in my studies, and make me realize that that was exactly what I wanted to do in life. At the end of the day, the research resulted in a paper that, together with all the skills developed during my staying in Campinas, were extremely helpful in helping me find my current position.
In a world where technological progress is unstoppable and where artificial intelligence will play an increasingly dominant role, it is critical that these new tools become allies, not threats. To achieve this, we must ground education in multidisciplinarity, cross-cultural exchange, collaboration, and creativity. These principles are essential to preparing students for the challenges ahead. Both Heritage for Future, the European Community Initiative, and BRIT24, the Italian-Brazilian Student Network, share this fundamental mission. By bridging disciplines, cultures, and innovative approaches, we empower the next generation to harness technology responsibly and imaginatively. I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to the organizers for this invitation. I hope my presentation has provided valuable insights, and, more importantly, that it may serve as a foundation for future collaborations. Until next time.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the presentation made by Stefano. I think it's an interesting testimonial of how the collaboration between the European Union, Italy specifically, and Brazil can lead, and what we can do with all these opportunities that Charlotte showed to us.
Yeah, can I do a question? Good
Sure.
morning.
Go ahead, Tommaso.
Charlotte and Marco, thank you very much for the presentation. I also in the past had a look to Horizon website to try to understand if there was some possibility to develop some project. One thing that looking inside, I had the hint, but maybe I'm wrong. It is that if we apply to the individual research, as far as I understand, we cannot do that being a leading project here from Brazil. It is strictly necessary that a professor has to go in Europe to develop the project. That's it?
You're right, Tommaso. Most of the calls that are open to individual researchers fund mobility and not collaborative projects.
Okay.
There is one case under the European Research Council that funds the very best researchers. There are two types of grants by the European Research Council. The first three are individual, so you receive a very generous grant and you do your research in Europe. You don't have to abandon your laboratory. You have to dedicate at least 50% of your time in Europe. Okay? But there is one call that is called ERC Synergy Grant that funds group of researchers, 2 to 4 PIs, and one of them can be based outside of Europe if it's necessary. So in that case, you could do the research from your institution in Brazil in partnership with your other colleagues in Europe, and the total budget is 10 million euros, and the project are 6 years.
Thank you very much.
If you participate in a Marie Skłodowska-Curie staff exchange project, then you can stay and your students can do the mobility and you can receive incoming mobility from Italian researchers or other Europeans to Brazil. Okay?
Okay.
And the project, you will stay here, and the project will be international anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. Very useful and instructive. I have a question because I'm not sure if I understand properly. You mentioned that for the Marie Curie Fellowship, individual fellowship, the years that a researcher spent in Brazil after the obtaining the PhD are not counted for the limit of the 8 years. So, for example, if it is an Italian researcher that spent 15 years, as to say, after the PhD, and of this spent 8 years working in Brazil, can she or he apply for the individual Marie Curie?
If he had not worked more than 8 years full-time research experience in Europe, he or she can. Yes, this is the good news.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Paride, can you say the institution that you belong to? I mean, everybody's going to.
Yes, I'm Paride. I'm from Italy, Centro Studi Americanistici Circolo Amerindiano. And yeah, since I have several friends, Italian friends that work in Brazil, it can be a very nice opportunity for trying some kind of mobility to develop further our ongoing collaboration and so on. So I think it's definitely a very great option.
The call is open until 8th of October now, and they need to apply with a host institution in Europe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Fabio, would you like to give a final word regarding the...
Sure. Well, thanks to all to participate. I hope that it has been inspiring. And yes, it's not easy to take all these informations, but I think that the results of the effort that Stefano has done in order to push up the collaboration was worth of the effort. And so I really suggest to all of you to try to participate to the European programs, because really they are transdisciplinary. They can offer a huge opportunities to you, to your students, to your collaborators. And so I think that it's really another way to improve the bilateral collaboration between Italy and Brazil. I'm sure that all the Italian institutions will be very happy to share with you this opportunity. And you can find a lot of partners in the Italian institution, especially if you try to do it from Brazil. So don't be shy and just enter in contact with your possible collaborators to make the application, because as Charlotte mentioned, and I think this is very important, to have a Brazilian partners, it's something which helps for the success of your application. This is something that for sure it's very important, because clearly the effort is great. So, I mean, to be successful, for sure, it's the most important target.
Thank you, Marco, for the opportunity. Also, don't be afraid. You are not alone. The European institutions are very used to preparing this type of proposal. And in Europe and in Brazil, there are somebody that is called national contact points, usually by program or by cluster, NCPs. this person know everything about the program and can help you preparing good proposal, finding partners. They organize info session in Europe, brokerage events. So if you want to participate, you will have all the support you need. If you need tips, if you didn't understand something, you can always contact me. Also, I'm at your disposal. And no, I don't know how to say it in Italian, but animo. It may look complicated, but it's really worth it. So good luck.
I also would like to thank all the participants, and especially Fabio and Charlotte, on behalf of the Associação dos Pesquisadores Italianos in Brazil. And hopefully this will be just the first of a series of events that we can organize in order to foster and strengthen the collaboration within Italy and Brazil.